What does Under Armour, Apple, Instagram, and Yankee Candle all have in common? Each of these companies started out as a side hustle. Now, not every side hustle is going to be the next Apple, but growing a side hustle is one of the best experiences that you could have as an entrepreneur, not just for the money that you can make each and every month, but to really build something and grow something that is truly yours. Heck, even building a side hustle might even turn and replace your 9 to 5 job. Here are 14 side hustles that you can start in 2021 heading into 2022. Welcome, neighbors, to episode 9 of the Neighborhood Money Podcast. This podcast is here to help you grow your financial knowledge and build a life you deserve. We are back here in the neighborhood studio. If you're new here to the neighborhood, I am one of your hosts. My name is Cavan.
And my name is Drew.
And today we have an awesome episode all about the good old side hustle. What are 14 of the side hustles that we've found that you really could
Yep.
implement into your life, as well as potentially, building a side hustle to ultimately replace your 9 to 5 if that's what your ultimate goal is.
Yeah, am really excited for this episode. I think it's going to be a really fun episode. If you're somebody out there that is really into hobbies or wants some extra cash, this is a good episode just to go through and say, hey, if I'm passionate about something, I might be able to make money off it. And if you can get that little extra cash in your pocket, that's a win-win.
Passion is such a key when it comes to a side hustle because anyone can do something for a short amount of time. But when you're passionate about something, that's when you can really grow something to truly be valuable in your life. And so, Drew, to really kick off this episode, what exactly is a side hustle?
Yeah, a side hustle to me is just a little not necessarily part-time job, but just something you do on the side that brings in a little extra cash to help supplement your monthly and yearly income. It could be anywhere from writing blogs, or it could be doing some woodworking, or it could be from programming, or whatever it may be. So just a little something extra that's on the side, and you never know, it could become your full-time job.
And that on the side money is really ultimately what it's for, right? If you're not making money off of your side hustle, then it's a hobby. But as soon as you can start monetizing your hobby, which is
Mhm.
ultimately the goal here, to do something that you're passionate about, that you really enjoy,
Yeah.
when you start monetizing it, that's when it becomes your side hustle. And you can really start growing that into, like Drew said, something that could potentially be a job or something that you do during the 9 to 5 rather than clocking in.
Yeah, that's a great point. And there's also so we figured out the what there, and now there's almost the why of these side hustles. And the first thing I would like to say is you got to make down a list of things that you really, really enjoy.
Definitely crucial what you enjoy, and you can really find ways to make money off of those to get that extra cash each and every month, as well as to potentially, have a passion around it so you can continue to do your side hustle each and every day. Because let's be honest, at the end of the day, building a side hustle isn't easy. It's not something that's just an overnight success. But if you have that enjoyability, if you have that passion,
Mhm.
it's going to make it way easier to continue to build and grow the hustle.
Yeah, and the hustle and building it is also a very good way to just like we're saying supplement your monthly income. So if say you're really tight for your bills, or say you're trying to add some extra money into your retirement, these are just a great little thing to just say, hey, maybe I wanted to go out to eat this this month or this week, and if I just do a little bit extra stuff on the side here, maybe I can go and have that meal.
Yeah, maybe you could get paid to go out and have that meal if you become some sort of food influencer.
Yeah,
We'll
that's
get
true
more into
too.
that in later on in the episode, but building a side hustle is really endless. There are a lot of possibilities, and in 2021 and with the age of the internet and social media as it is,
Yeah.
you can really make money doing anything,
Yeah, anything under the moon. I'm just gonna
right?
say a funny one out of here that I've heard about, and I've actually looked into it just to see if it was legit, and it was becoming somebody's friend. You
Yeah.
could when we say there's literally anything you could do for a side hustle. I mean, this thing was somebody will pay you $10 to be their friend, or go to the movies together, or to go to the movies with you. And I just found it crazy that you'd never think you could get paid for something like that, but In this day and age, you can.
Now, Drew, is that a plug for people to go out and find you on Rent a Friend?
No comment.
All right, Drew. So we've got 14 side hustles to walk through here. One teaser you already gave. But before we dive into that list, there's really two ways you can support this podcast. If you're listening to the audio version, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, or Google, please go out and rate and review the podcast. That goes a really long way on helping us grow this platform and getting this podcast into more ears. In addition to that, please share it with just one friend or family member, because again, that lets us grow this platform. And secondly, if you're watching us out on YouTube, and yes, we are on YouTube, so you can watch our beautiful faces if you want to.
Oh, yeah.
If you're watching out on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, as well as like this video if you get value out of it, and leave us a comment on anything that catches your interest in this episode or any other topics that you want to see in future episodes.
Absolutely. And don't forget to let us know what you like and don't like, and maybe comment. And the more you comment, maybe this YouTube side hustle could end up being a full-time thing for me and Cav.
There you go. This is part of our side hustle, right, Drew? All right, Drew. So 14 side hustles to get through here today that you can, the neighbor, start in 2021, heading into 2022. And the first category of side hustles are freelancing. And there's really the first one is through whether it's Fiverr, Upwork, or Slogan Slingers. Those are all three different websites. But
Mhm.
I think the one, Drew, that I really want to focus on that gets a lot of attention is Fiverr.
Yeah, Fiverr is an awesome app. I've looked on it multiple times. I've never actually used it to gain money, but I have used it for, if I wanted to find out a slogan or if I needed somebody to potentially, make an app. And there's endless things they can do on there. I think when we were talking the other day, I was speaking with you, they even have areas, if you're really good at Excel, you
Right.
could just clean up people's data for you, or you could clean up their data and they pay you to do that.
Yeah, there's really possibilities are endless there. It's kind of just you put out your skill set
Yeah.
and someone hires you based on that skill set. I was actually in preparing for this episode, Drew. We haven't talked about this yet, but I was watching a video on Fiverr, and there's a guy out there that all he does is gets hired to send a video saying happy birthday to someone. And he charges $50 a video for, I don't know, like a 10-second clip.
Just to
But
say happy birthday, Cavan Stackpool.
yeah, it's crazy. So, Fiverr, you can ultimately really do anything that you have a skill set for. Excel, like Drew was saying, wishing someone
Mhm.
happy birthday,
Yep.
really ultimately whatever you want. And people actually can make decent money off of this on their side, on the side of their full-time job.
Yeah, and the exciting thing with Fiverr and Upwork, for lack of better terms, is like the same one of the same things. It's just a Fiverr competitor.
Hmm.
But these two different sites, I mean, you can have your gig that you want to do, your little freelance job, but it extrapolates you to entire nation and the world. So it doesn't just put you just to your city, it puts you to the whole entire world, which is
Hmm.
pretty crazy.
And the second side hustle here is if you are one of those people that are good around the house, putting up pictures, installing TVs, or actually into carpentry, etc., you can actually go to Handy, I believe it's handy.com, and you can put yourself out there as a handyman, and you can get hired to go into people's houses and help them out with stuff around the house.
Yeah, I haven't actually heard about this app before, but it is really cool how you can leverage technology towards being a handyman. A lot of the times in the past, you would maybe go in the phone book or maybe go on
Hmm.
the internet and see if, like, on Facebook, hey, anybody know somebody that can fix my leaky sink
Right.
or help me change a light bulb? I actually have heard that one before.
And
But
it can be intimidating too to try to find somebody that you trust and know that they can do a good job.
yeah, and that's a good thing about this Handy is when you can go on and see reviews and you can just click your location if there's anybody that does this type of skill set, and there's maybe more traffic flowing to you and almost free marketing than there would be elsewhere.
I think even in addition to being a handyman, they also provide a cleaning service through the app So if you want to go on that side of the house, it's definitely a possibility. So the second bucket of side hustles are going to be more service based. And so the third side hustle that you can consider here in 2021 is food delivery, whether
Yeah.
it's through Instacart or DoorDash.
Yeah, these are one where you can just take your own car and just your phone, and you log in, and then you can say, "Hey, somebody wants me to deliver them food," and you get paid for that. Could be something you could do when you get home from work or on your way home from work. Say you live an hour away
Hmm.
and there's a grocery store in between you and your next stop and home. I mean, it's not that far out of your way, and you could make a little extra cash on your way home and maybe pay for your gas even.
Right. Or your groceries or whatever you're picking up. And what I really like about this too is if you live in a bigger city, you don't even need a car. You can use a bike, you can use a scooter,
Mhm.
you can ultimately walk if you're close enough, but it's really a low barrier of entry to start food delivery. And, Drew, right now, given that we're still in the middle of a pandemic,
Yep.
some people are still hesitant to going out to eat and are still getting food delivered to them. And I know a lot of restaurants are really going along this route of, hey, we know there's a demand to have food delivered to people. Let's team
Yep.
up with some of these services so that we can get our food to their house.
I've never used that app at home actually, but there's not much that's that far away. But when I have been down near you, and if I had a couple too many drinks the night before, I don't
Yep.
necessarily want to drive. So it's kind of nice where if you're just sitting on the couch, you can have the food delivered right to you.
So if you want to take advantage of people like Drew,
Yes.
go ahead and sign up and, look at Instacart or DoorDash, any food delivery service as your side hustle.
Yeah. Also, with these apps, it goes into almost our second little area here, and everybody's probably heard of Uber and Lyft, and these are just ride sharing. And these are another way where you just leverage your own vehicle and your cell phone and just make a little bit extra cash.
And these services are really growing out outside of the metro to smaller and smaller cities.
Hmm.
So more than likely, you have the ability to drive for whether it's Uber or Lyft, wherever you live. But it's really nice too, Drew,
Yeah.
because you can really set your own schedule and work as little or as much as you want.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of these technology side hustles. There might have been some before Uber, but Uber might be that gold standard of these side hustles because everything you talk about now, they say, hey, this is the Uber of food delivery. Hey, this is
Right.
the Uber of renting houses. Hey, this is the Uber of et cetera, et cetera. So if it wasn't for Uber, in my opinion, you probably wouldn't really be seeing as many of these technology side hustles grow.
And a lot of these technology side hustles, you can be fairly successful each and every month, bringing in 1 to 2 grand, depending on where you live. It's not that out of reach to get to that point.
Yeah, and the great thing with these are it's so much your flexibility with them. You don't have to do them every single day. You don't have to do them from this time to this time every day. If you don't want to do it that day, you don't have to. But if you feel like you're bored or you want to make some extra money, then you say, "All right, I guess today after work I'll just go and do this." Or, "Hey, before work I'll do this." Or on the weekends, if you didn't have anything going on, maybe that's something that you looked into and did.
So, in addition to ride sharing, so using your car, you
Mhm.
can also go out, and this is number 5 on our list. You can also go out and walk dogs or board dogs, do house sitting for dogs and cats, ultimately watching other people's pets through rover.com.
Yeah, that pet sitting and dog walking is a really cool idea. I think I've heard of it once before. One of our buddies, I want to say, used it.
Yeah,
And what a cool thing to do is you get to see a bunch of different dogs. I love dogs.
same.
So you'd be able to see all these different dogs and either you give them some little treats or bring out for walks or just get to pet them. I like to do that too.
Yeah, this is probably one of my favorite ones on our list here because, like you said, we are big dog people. And
Yeah.
actually, thinking back when we got our dog 4 years ago, when she was a puppy, we really didn't know what we were going to do because Hannah, my wife, and I both work from 9 to 5 essentially. And we didn't
Hmm.
want to leave this puppy alone all day. So we're like, oh, we could use Rover or something similar to like that to get a dog sitter to come by 1 to 2 times a day during the week
Yeah.
to help with potty training and things like that. Fortunately, our neighbor was someone that was going back to school and was home and really helped us out there. But we did a lot of research into the app, and there's a lot of great reviews, and we were going to go with them, but we were fortunate enough to have a neighbor help us out there.
Yeah, when you were looking at that, did it seem a little bit more cost effective than if you were to have them at, say, a doggy daycare?
I would say it's fairly similar depending on your daycare.
Yeah.
Down here in the metro area that I live,
Mhm.
daycare is typically, anywhere is from 30 to $50 depending on the
Yeah.
quality of daycare. I would say that the Rover app, when I was looking, I haven't looked at prices recently, was
Yep.
around the $30 to $40 for like a 10-minute visit or something like that. So it's a little more expensive when you think of what you're getting out of it, but you don't have to bring your dog to daycare. You don't have to pick up your dog from daycare. You don't have
That's
to
a
worry
big
about
part.
giving your dog a bath, depending on what the daycare is like and
Especially
things
you
like
down in the
that.
metro.
Right.
That's huge and not having to drive and drop off and pick up.
Absolutely. And Drew, number 6 here. So we talked about cars, we talked about watching dogs. You can
Yeah.
actually house sit and take care of someone's house while they're out for vacation or an extended period of time away from their home.
This might be a little bit of a tangent, but it's still kind of related here. When I hear house sitting, I just think of that old Adam Sandler, Chris Farley skit of the Hurley Boys, and they're like, "Just let him sleep in your bed. He'll wash your sheets." Just remind me of it. It's just always a funny skit. I love that one. But house sitting, that's another one where something you don't even think about. You don't even think you would be able to get paid for that, or you didn't know how you could reach out. Like, how do you know who to trust for house sitting? How do you know who to ask if they're house sit for you? It's so awesome that you can just go on there and see who's available and who has good reviews.
Even in areas where you might not have these services available to you, I think it's a good idea if you're interested in any of these to go out and say, hey, maybe I don't have the app available, but I could
Yeah.
easily market myself as a house sitter in whatever town I am in or a dog walker in whatever town I'm in. You don't necessarily need to rely on the app. I know it makes it a lot easier because it's already a
Yeah.
system that's set up. But I would say for if you're in a smaller town, you can definitely take this and run with it.
Yeah, and if you are in a smaller town, like you said, if you were to do the marketing yourself, another good thing with that is you're making more money for yourself.
Right.
If any of these other apps, it's kind of the old school high side hustle versus the new school. In the new school, it costs you. In the old school, it just costs your time. So if you're not really wanting to invest too much money or have as much money taken out of your services, then maybe it's best to start from just word of mouth and just talking to people and say, "Hey, who wants me to do this for them?"
And you can also probably easier build that side hustle up faster word of mouth. Yes, it's going to take time to get started.
Yeah.
Take dog walking, for example. It might take some time to get some clients, but once you get that word of mouth and that momentum, you really don't know where it's going to go. And really, the sky is the limit at that point. And so, Drew, if I move us now to number 7 side hustle on this
Mhm.
list, this is really bucketed into the rental portion of this episode. And so, if we think about ride sharing, that was when we were driving
Yeah.
around and picking up people and bringing them to from A to B.
Mhm.
But I know I talked about this on an earlier episode. The app Turo, it allows you to actually just rent out your car so someone can take your car and use it for 2, 3, 4 days as a rental.
Yeah, actually, after that episode and you talking about Turo, there's a buddy that came up to me and said he's actually gonna do that as a side hustle. They're just gonna
That's
either
awesome.
have start with their car in an area and start renting it out, and then they actually wanted to get a couple other cars just to
Nice.
have as almost a fleet, and that they can rent out in a more populated touristic area.
That's an awesome idea. And if you're listening to this episode, our neighbor that's, looking at this, reach
Yeah,
out to us. We'd love to talk to you if you go down the road of buying more cars and setting up a business around Turo. We'd love to talk to you on the podcast and get, what your thoughts are, what your
yeah,
aim is, and ultimately, how the process is going for you.
absolutely. And this is just another area too where it's kind of that old school versus a new school. You could rent out your car without an app. If there's somebody that's in your area and just wanted a car, just say, "Hey, I know this person and they're second cousin's third brother rents out his car. Here's his number, and you could do that.
Their sisters, cousins, aunties, uncles.
Yeah, that one.
So number 8 on this list is Airbnb or Verbo, VRBO. If you're not familiar with it, it's essentially you're renting out a space or you're renting out your house to someone to stay in on their vacation or their trip.
Yeah, there's also a really creative way I've seen people use these Airbnbs and Verbo, and we've talked about it in the past, at least between me and you. And I think
Hmm.
you've heard about it, but they have a guy or a girl that was out there, and the way they do their real estate investing actually was through VRBO and Verbo, so or VRBO and Airbnb. They'd go
Right.
to a rental unit, so a long term rental, like you'd be living in the metro, and
Hmm.
they say to their landlord, "Hey, is it okay if I rent this room out?" And they go, "Yep, you definitely can rent it out to other people." So then they set that up as Airbnb. They had their own cleaning service, and that way they have rental units in highly populated areas with putting almost $0 down. They just have your initial deposit, and then after your first couple clients, your rent for the month is paid for, and whatever on top of that is your profit.
I think that one's so interesting. You might hear it being called Airbnb arbitrage.
Yeah.
There are some steps you need to go through, and I'm not familiar with all the legality of it. But if you do go down this road, you're going to want to make sure that the landlord is okay with it, and you'd have to
Yes.
have it in your lease that you can then rent out this room, house, whatever it might be. But a lot of people make some good money, and it's a really good way to get into real estate investing.
Yeah, it's really creative, I thought, that Airbnb arbitrage, but even just Airbnbs in general, it's if you have the extra cash where you can buy other places, it's really cool that you can just have a short-term rental place, like a resort. But even, if you're just gone for the weekend and you just wanted a little bit of extra cash and you're in a area where people want to be, you might as well try it out.
If you have a cabin, you can easily do an Airbnb at your cabin if you're comfortable with that, and you can
Mhm.
rent it out, and people, are happy to take that time to get into the wilderness, into the lakes. And it's a really good opportunity if you have the situation to be able to rent out a cabin.
Yeah, there may be some people out in the lakes and with their cabins. They might complain about these property taxes that they have to pay, and everybody probably complains about that.
Right.
But this might be a way for them to recoup some of those. Say instead of going up there every single weekend, or they know they were not going to be there for the weekend, just rent it out a few times as long as you're comfortable with it, and maybe your property taxes are paid for. Maybe those aren't as big of a deal then in the future.
Number 9 here on the list, Drew, and I got a kick out of this when you brought it up to me because I hadn't heard about it before, but it's called
Yeah.
Fat Llama. Drew, do you want to talk a little bit about what that is? Because by the name of it, I would have never guessed that this is what
Fat
this service
llama.
does.
Fat llama caught my eye, and I said, "What in the world could this be?"
Yeah,
And it turned out to be just a rent anything. I went on there, you can
almost
rent go
anything, right?
almost anything. Sorry, yeah, almost anything. But they had you could rent paddle boards, you could rent bikes, you could rent GoPros, you could
Hmm.
rent boats. They
Yeah.
had a lot of stuff on there, and I don't know who came up with Fat Llama because it really doesn't have anything to do with rentals, at least in my opinion, but maybe that was their idea because they caught my eye, and that made me go look at what the heck is it?
Yeah, I was super interested in finding out a little bit more about this, and it seems that it's pretty popular overseas. I
Mhm.
know that you can rent here in the United States, and so I'm not too sure of how widely adopted it is yet, but it does seem that it is starting to grow, and so it might be a
Yeah.
newish company. But if that's something that's interesting you, that you want to rent out a drone, if you want to rent out something like that,
Yeah.
look into it.
That's something too where for one, I wanna talk about it because of the funky name on it,
Yeah.
but two, it's just another way for us to get ideas out there of saying, "You can make money on anything, and you can rent out anything." There's somebody in the market for just about anything you can dream of or think of.
Speaking of, there's someone in any type of market. The
Mhm.
number 10 here are this another section of side hustles is flipping and selling.
Mhm.
And if you're familiar, with the entrepreneur space. This gets a
Yep.
lot of weight. A lot of people talk this up. But number 10, a side hustle is selling through apps like Facebook Marketplace,
Yep.
Craigslist. Offer Up is a big one if you haven't heard of that, which is a very
Mhm.
similar to Facebook Marketplace, or even building your own store and service and selling on Etsy.
This is also a, cool area. I've been saying about all the areas, but literally all these areas of side hustles are cool. And flipping or just selling what you have in excess is just another way to bring that extra income into your house. I could probably bet that just that about everybody can open up their closet and say, I have way too much stuff in here.
Right. I know when we moved from our townhouse into now the home that we live in, I easily sold between $3,000 to $5,000 worth of stuff that was just sitting in our house through Facebook Marketplace.
Wow,
Yeah, it,
that's a huge win
it
there.
was crazy. Anything from furniture to saws and tools to even like plates and little things like that. People just will buy it if you put it out there.
Yeah, and you probably use them enough times where you got your money's worth out of them. So even if you take a little bit of a loss on it, no big deal. You're gonna throw them away anyways, most likely. So either you can give them away or you can make money on them again.
Well, that's the biggest thing is that it was a sunk cost because we weren't using the stuff or we were
Yeah.
going to get new furniture. And so we, like you said, we're going to just throw it away anyway. So we just sold it and made some cash. It was great. But if you're thinking about flipping and selling,
Hmm.
y- even beyond what's inside of your home, what you're not using, you can go to garage sales. You can go to flea markets. I know another thing that I've seen more recently is going to clearance sections in stores like Target and Walmart,
Hmm.
buying clearance and then selling it not for full price, but for less than full price, but more than you bought it for. And there's apps out there that can help you do that to figure out, okay, well, this is 50% off. How much profit can I get when you account for shipping and all that?
Yeah, and I wouldn't underestimate eBay. You might think it's an older type of a company, but they are actually an awesome company for it. And I have a buddy that has his own eBay business where he just sells well, it's actually just about anything, but a lot of the stuff he started out with was used clothes, and he had a pair of ripped jeans being sold on there, and people bought them. He's like old work jeans, and somebody bought them. So there's literally, like, when I say there's a market for everything, there's a market for anything.
My only advice here is if you can sell locally through Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, Craigslist, I would
Hmm.
go that route over eBay just because eBay does take a fee. So you have to watch out a little bit about fees and whatnot. But eBay is definitely a really
Yeah.
excellent opportunity to reach beyond where you could drive in a day.
Yeah, and I guess the main point I wanted to just pull out of there is that somebody was able to sell ripped jeans. You might think your clothes aren't good enough to sell, but somebody actually might buy them still.
And there's also online consignment stores where you can sell
Mhm.
designer clothes to them or have them sell them for you and you'll get a little bit of a kickback. That's not on our list, but that is also something that you can consider. So
Yeah.
this next section, Drew, is the other side hustles, but number 11 on our list here is filling out online surveys.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of money in it from what I've seen,
Yes, for sure.
but they're just something as easy as filling out anywhere from a 3 to 5 minute survey, and you'll get either cash back, you'll get coupons back. So if you're a big shopper and maybe you want to have some extra percentage off where you're going or some extra dollars off, every little bit helps. And if you just had that extra time in your laptop or extra time in just your cell phone,
Mhm.
you'd able to still make some money.
Here's a quick story for you, Drew, and our neighbors listening. When I was in college, I actually did this. When we were just sitting around watching TV or whatnot,
Hmm.
I would just fill out surveys, and I actually would get quite a bit of money towards GameStop. That's ultimately where I got my gift cards too. But
You
I
big
would get
gamer?
used to be not so much anymore, but that kind of funded playing video games in college. I would get probably $10 to $15 per month for new games or like buy two get one free,
Yeah.
something like that. It didn't take a lot of effort, but I would see some benefits to it. So at the end of the day, when we think about surveys, not going to be that profitable.
Yeah.
but it could be fun for you and you could get some benefit to whatever store you're looking at.
Yeah, and the one that we accidentally missed up on the freelance area, but it actually fits in this other a lot, is this thing called Slogan Slingers. And all you do is you can get notified of these different people that want a business name or a slogan for their business. And all you have to do is just type stuff, say, the best is yet to come. And if somebody likes it, it's not trademarked or anything, they'll click on yours and you get paid money for just writing stuff. So you could go on there if you just had some extra time, rattled off 50, 60 entries, and you could make money by just rattling off random names.
Yeah, excellent. Excellent to call that one out. So number 12 on our list is you can actually take the photos that you take on your iPhone,
Hmm.
Android, Google phone, whatever, and you can sell them through companies like Shutterstock or Getty Images.
Photos are another huge one. And, the next one out of is what we've kind of talked about earlier was renting a friend. And like I said, no comment if I'm on there.
This one is just absolutely bizarre to me. I know we already touched on it, so we won't go much further into it. But the
Yeah.
fact that you can go out and pay someone to go to the movies with you or go out to eat with you
Yeah.
is just it's mind blowing to me.
Yeah. The website was a little sketch, but it's still a site that's out there, which is crazy.
So now I'm not even sure if we should be talking about it on this podcast, but hey, number 14 on our list, and that's ultimately building a business. And so here in the
Yeah.
neighborhood money studio, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build this podcast as our side hustle, as our passion project to ultimately grow to a place that it can also not only provide value to our neighbor here, but also provide value to us from a financial standpoint.
Yeah, and it's still something where just like as all these side hustles, our focus is 100% when we're doing our real jobs
Right.
or we're working during the day. But when there's that extra time that you're not thinking about your job, that's when Cavan and I are able to come and do a podcast like this. We make phone calls late at night. I think there's sometimes we're going to bed at midnight,
Way
one,
too
two
late.
o'clock. Yeah, after talking for 3, 4 hours.
Yep.
But, it's just could find time, we could make time, and it's just a little labor of love and passion right now, and then hopefully it can become a true side hustle and maybe even a full-time hustle.
And in 2021, building a brand is so big, specifically when you're trying to build a business. So
Mhm.
that includes building your brand on social media, a podcast like us, whatever it is. uh,
Yeah.
Just go out there, put yourself out there, be vulnerable, and
Mhm.
start to build that brand for whatever it might be. It might be cooking. And Drew and I were talking the other day about, a sweet old lady, a sweet old Italian lady that has a cooking show on YouTube and has coming up on 1 million followers. And all she does is
Yeah.
just videotape the recipes that she cooks every night for her family.
My favorite old Italian lady, Gina, I believe their show, I'll give her a little plug here. I believe it was Bon Appetit, but I've been making my spaghetti sauces and my breads and all my Italian food from her recipes, and they're awesome.
And so when you grow that social following or that personal brand, that might allow you to then affiliate market. And ultimately, what that is just you are selling other people's products or services. And that
Mhm.
can be a great way, or that can be a great side hustle to bring in that monthly income.
Yeah, a cool way with these affiliate marketing, one way I've seen it, if you didn't have this huge brand and this huge following, a way I've seen people do it is by using these Facebook or Google ads. So there's websites out there that you can find these affiliate programs, and then you find another company that's a middleman that's like your website that will bring the traffic to that company,
Hmm.
and then you just have your own Facebook page that you made, and then you run Facebook ads. So it's like 3 steps. You'd have your Facebook page that you're selling ads. People click on the link that brings you to your landing website, and then if they like that, they click that, which goes in to the company, and every time that converts into a sale, you get paid for that, and that's without even having a huge following. It does cost money because 'cause you're paying for these Facebook ads,
Hmm.
but if you're wanting to have something on the side hustle and you're willing to invest money, if that's part of your side hustle strategy, it sounds simple. Obviously, it's gonna be a lot more difficult than that, a
For
lot of
sure.
trial and error. but it's something as easy as that. It's either you can have a lot of brand followers and people pay you easily, or you can have no followers and you can drive traffic through advertisements.
This is actually something that I do outside of the neighborhood is I am on TikTok and I have a
Mhm,
small following there, and I do actually market products that I currently use. And I
mhm,
think that's a really big point here is that I would recommend only affiliate marketing those products that you personally use and find valuable to yourself. But
mhm.
I put those products out there, and when people go in and sign up under my link, I get a little bit of a kickback from whatever company it is. So it is a really good way to make that side cash if you're into putting yourself out there, being a little more vulnerable, or going the route of setting up, the Facebook page with the ad revenue, or with putting Facebook
Yeah,
ads out there.
and maybe
It's-
not being as passionate about it.
exactly. And then the last thing within the building a business landscape is obviously real estate.
Mhm,
When you get into real estate, people typically think that, oh, I'm going to buy property and then I'm going to rent that out to a tenant, typically in the residential area, and they're going to
mhm.
pay me monthly to live there. But there's more to that, isn't there, Drew?
Yeah, when there's people that say I'm going into real estate, it's a huge, huge marketplace.
For sure.
If you wanted your side hustle to be a part-time real estate agent, you can make your money by just selling your houses. If you had some extra cash and you're handy, you could flip houses. If
Hmm.
you had some cash and you weren't that handy, you could buy places and be the landlord, whether that be commercial properties, which like or businesses, or if you want single family homes, or if you want multifamily homes. And even if you're a guy that just really knew land, you could make a lot of money with land, even if it was, hey, I'm going to buy this property and I know the wood's really good. I know lumber really good. And I know I can get this whole thing, I can get paid to have it logged. I mean, that's such a cool thing too that you'd really never
Right.
think about saying, hey, I'm going to buy some raw land. I know wood really good. I'm going to pay somebody to come in here and log it for me. And it could potentially pay for your whole land. And then you just have land for free. You're paying just property taxes on it. That's cleared out.
Right. Obviously, real estate takes a lot of upfront costs
Yep.
unless you do things like Airbnb arbitrage.
Hmm.
That's short term rentals, but something similar, if you can get creative with it. But it does take some money up front, and it definitely takes some learning and understanding of the real estate market to really dive in and get started there. But a lot of people make a lot of money doing that, and it's an excellent way to not only start a side hustle but potentially to become financially free. And that's, I think, ultimately the goal of all of our
Yep.
neighbors here is to build wealth and become financially free. So Drew, that was
Yep.
14, roughly 14 side
Yeah.
hustles here. I know we threw a lot of different things out there, but hopefully our neighbors got some different ideas bouncing around their head to start their side hustle here in 2021 and heading into 2022. But what are some of the key takeaways you have from this conversation?
This key takeaway for me, I have one, but as we were talking through it, sparked another one. So I'm going to have two.
Perfect.
So the first one that I got as we're going through this is if you have a cell phone or you have time, you can make money. And I
Yep.
think that's crazy. Like you can just go find out ways to make the extra cash. And like a lot of these things we talked about today were all from a cell phone.
Right.
Or even if you want to market yourself, you just need some time. I
Right.
almost gave the middle finger there by saying number two. So sorry about that.
The Neighborhood Money podcast is shot on two cell phones. I will just say that.
Yeah. And my original one was if you're good at something, you're passionate about something, don't sell yourself short. If you really enjoy doing it, try getting paid for that.
I would 100% agree with you on that one. You need to find what your passion is, what your hobby is, and figure out a way to monetize that. Make it your side gig. And then, if this is your goal, make it your full time gig. And the reason we say something that you're passionate about or something that's your hobby is
Mhm.
because building a side hustle, specifically one that's not as easy as, say, Uber or Lyft, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort. I think that gets undersold in the entrepreneur space. But if you're passionate about something, it's going to make it a lot easier to build something, specifically if you love the process.
Yeah, it's not gonna feel like a job or it's not gonna feel like work for you. It's just something that you really enjoy and you probably don't even want to stop doing it.
And that's really the goal of a side hustle, is to have something that's fun and
Yeah.
that you enjoy. And like I said earlier in the episode, remember it's 2021 and you can make money off of anything. So like Drew also was saying, just put yourself out there, be a little vulnerable, take risk, work hard, and grow and start your side hustle.
Yeah. I think the vulnerable one's a kind of a huge one is be vulnerable. I haven't been, to be honest with you guys, if you guys are watching the YouTube video or listening, I haven't been somebody that's really been out on social media often,
Same.
being in front of a camera, talking in front of a mic, especially listening to myself on playback. But
That takes
that
some
just
time to adjust.
it's some time to adjust, and it's been something for me where it's been a progress every week during our episodes. I'm
Right.
trying to get a little bit more comfortable. Each other, both of us give each other some feedback, so we try to improve every single week. But this talk about vulnerability, these video and audio things have been a big vulnerable point for me, and I'm still trying to get over that. So if anybody else is out there, just jump in feet first. Don't really touch your, don't walk in, just jump in and just
Yeah.
do it.
Just get started, get going.
Mhm.
Speaking of vulnerability, Drew, I know each and every week we do share what's going on in our life in this segment called What's Going On in Your Neighborhood.
Yeah.
So, what has been going on in your neighborhood here in the last week?
Well, last week I talked about going to the baby shower. We went down to the baby shower. It was successful. It went good. We
Nice.
we brought the truck full of baby stuff back. I was able to
Excellent.
see my cousin, which I haven't seen in a while. I was able to see you, which I haven't
Right?
seen you in person for a while. So, and then I also had a little baby queue, I think
Ooh.
was they were calling it. It was some college buddies and one of my buddies that's also having a kid about the same time as me. I
Nice.
think they're November 4th. Ours is potentially November 5th. So it's a race to the finish line right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good play on of words there with the baby Q.
Wasn't my thing. I think it was the girls for sure.
But yeah, when you came over, we had a little mini photo shoot here in the, one of the neighborhood money studios. So if you do watch us on YouTube, or if you haven't checked us out yet, we took some photos to help us out with those thumbnails. So definitely check those out if you're interested. It was a lot of fun. We haven't, I've never done a photo shoot before. Granted, it wasn't full fledged, but it was a good time.
Speaking of thumbnails, if people want to hear a little funny story, my my mother-in-law, I was riding with her and my wife, and they're like, "Oh, what are you going to Cavan's for?" I said, "Oh, we're going over there to take some stock photos for the thumbnails for YouTube." And she just started chuckling at me and saying, "You need to say that exact same sentence to my husband when we get to the house." And she's like, "He will not know a word you just said." So we get to their house and Sue goes, "Hey, can you tell Bill over there what you just told me in the car?" So I looked at him. I said, "Yeah, I'm going over to my buddy's cabin, going over to my buddy Cavan's. We're gonna take some stock photos for some YouTube thumbnails." And God bless his soul because he was so nice about it. And then the rest of the people started laughing. He goes, "I didn't know a word you just said. You said stock and thumb, and
Yeah.
I have no idea what that was."
Yeah, 80% of people probably wouldn't have understood that sentence.
Yeah. So for anybody listening that didn't understand that, we just took some pictures that are end up going to go on to our YouTube little cover art or photos for each one of our videos.
Yeah, so check our page out. Let us know what you think about the new images for our video.
So that wraps up this week's episode on side hustles. We want to thank you guys for listening. If you want to give us a subscribe on YouTube or a review on a podcast, greatly appreciated. And if you don't, we're going to hunt you guys down. Just kidding. Just kidding. But with all that said, we will see you guys next week in the neighborhood.